Hello and welcome to The Cine Skinny, the podcast from the people behind the Skinny magazine. It's just me, Jamie, this week, and Peter and Ellie aren't here because they're very busy attending fringe shows, writing reviews, hosting panels at the book festival, and subbing and publishing absolutely hundreds of theatre and comedy reviews over at the Skinny's website. While they've been doing all that, I've been swanning off to the Edinburgh Film Festival, watching loads of movies and speaking to some of the stars attending, including veteran Scottish actor John Hannah, who was in Edinburgh for a double duty on the opening night of the festival. First, he turned up as a thin man in Louis Paxton's very funny absurdist comedy The Incomer, which opened the festival. And then a few hours later, Hannah helped kick off the Midnight Madness strand as the star of the absolutely bonkers Bad Day at the Office. The film is written and directed by Chi Kong Chen, and it's a crazy first-person POV action thriller following John Hannah's character Karl Davis. The film kicks off with Karl waking up in a hotel room with no memory and a dead body in his bathtub, and from there he has to fight his way through dozens of henchmen to find out why everyone is trying to kill him. As you can probably tell already, this is a long way from Hannah's more genteel roles in films like Sliding Doors and For Weddings and Funeral. As well as shooting and stabbing his way across London, Hannah's character also chokes a chef with a fish, does some parkour across some rooftops, and generally causes carnage. I must admit, Bad Day at the Office wasn't my cup of tea, but John Hannah gives it his absolute all. He's having a great time, and he seems to have gotten a lot out of this experience. I sat down with Hannah on the morning after Bad Day at the Office's world premiere at Edinburgh Film Festival to have a chat about how he got into acting in the first place. We also talked through some of the highlights from his career, and we discussed his uninhibited performance in this absolutely bonkers action film. Bonkers being the appropriate word. Please take a listen. So yeah, John, you've been a busy boy. You were just mentioning that last night you had a double opening, which I think is quite unusual.
Yeah.
You know, so you opened with The Incomer, and then there was Bad Day at the Office, which was the Midnight Madness screening. How are you feeling after that?
Yeah, I am a bit tired, but I was pretty buzzed last night and pretty freaked out by seeing Bad Day. The Incomer was beautiful, really beautiful, soft, whimsical, sweet film, great performances from the cast. And then I was in it as well, a wee bit. And then Bad Day is just the most mental thing I've ever been involved in. And it was as exhausting watching it as it was to do it, especially at that time of night.
I can imagine. I'm
looking forward to seeing it with sort of fresher eyes tonight. First time you watch something, it kind of just overwhelms you, you're kind of just like, whoa, am I in this? Am I watching this? And then the second time you start to see other little things in it. The third time you're starting to kind of get a sense of other elements to it because it's so fast. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fast, so bombarding. You know, I think I was in a spin for about the first 30 minutes.
So that was your very first watch last night?
Very first watch, yeah.
Before we get on to Bad Day at the Office, I wanted to maybe take you back to when John Hannah was a wee boy in East Kilbride, and just maybe how you got into movies in the first place. What do you remember? Were you a kind of movie kid? Was that something you were into when you were kicking about UK?
Yeah, when we were young, there was a cinema in East Kilbride, and there'd be a night out of the pictures once a week. As kids, we'd go down. It was just walk down to the town centre from where we were, go to the pictures, whatever was on. That was just a thing you did. Sundays, you had BBC One, BBC Two, ITV. It was raining because it's East Kilbride. It's high up, so It was always raining. And if you were stuck in, you'd just watch whatever was on. And yeah, I suppose I always just watched movies. I wasn't particularly interested in acting. I never thought about that. It was never something I wanted to do. Yeah, there was a funny game. This conversation came up. I was talking to a journalist yesterday who's from East Kilbride, and he knew what I was talking about. We used to play this game. I've asked actors about this all over the country, all over the world, in fact. If they ever played this game, we used to call it Best Man's Fall. He called it Dead Man's Fall, but he's also from East Kilbride, so have you ever heard of it?
I don't think so.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ayrshire.
Okay, so not far. And this game was, so the crowd of us in the summer, one person would be it, and the others would ask for some means of death that we'd seen in a movie, machine gun, knife, spear through the throat. You'd run to the person, they'd throw a spear, you'd then act out dying in that particular form. And then at the end of everybody having done it, the person that was in would pick who's the best fall, and we'd do it again. And it's sort of ironic, you kind of look back and you go, that was kind of acting. We were all practicing dying acting.
Well, good practice for a bad day at the office.
Yeah.
But like when did it, because I know you took a different path than you didn't go straight into acting, you went down the kind of more sensible route, I guess. And like, so when did acting start to come, like you think this is something I could do, you know?
Probably not until I was actually at drama school. I never went to drama school to be an actor. I went to drama school because it was the only thing I thought I was qualified to do. And in fact, not even because I was qualified to do it, but because it seemed like you didn't need any qualifications to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, as I say, I couldn't go to uni because I left at 16. I'd have to go to high school, I'd go to night school and get the things to go to uni. I couldn't go to art school because I wasn't an artist. I couldn't go to music school because I didn't play an instrument. And somebody at my work said, you should be an actor, you'd be a good actor. And I was like, well, how'd you do that? And he told me. And I was like, all right, then I'll do that. I'll be a student for a bit, I'll figure out what I want to do. And again, in those days, you could get a grant. And, you know, you don't need any skills to be an actor. You just need to go and turn up at the audition and get in, which I did. Blind bloody ignorance. And it wasn't until second year where I kind of had a bit of an epiphany about, oh, I could do this. I quite like this, you know.
Because I know that, you know, recently people like James McAvoy have been talking about how, like, you know, it's not easy for working class kids to get into acting. When you go to like film sets, you know, there's not too many working class kids. Certainly not kids who like came from somewhere like EK and, you know, trained as an electrician, you know. So like, did you find that when you were getting into it? Was it easier? Did you find those barriers were there, or did you notice that kind of clash as well?
I mean, when I came to London, I thought there was kind of a hang-up about the Scottish accent and things, but at the same time, I felt, or again, retrospectively, when I look back, I think that pathway for blue-collar, working-class actors, scripts, dramas, you know, when you think that's the age of Boys from the Black stuff, the things that Michael Waring was commissioning at the BBC, Play for Today's, where there was a diversity of productions doing different things, Auf Wiedersehen Pet, you know, there was just Our Friends in the North. There was, it seemed, you know, what would you call it, the golden age of working class dramas, you know, it was kind of moving on from, you know, the new wave sort of cinema of the French, the 60s, the angry young men, into the 70s and 80s. There seemed like there was a pathway and a progress there. I think that's shrunk in our media world now, you know, in terms of what the main channels are commissioning and the streamers are commissioning. You know, all this fantasy stuff and like highbrow literary stuff, all the contents, the upstairs, downstairs, when it's really just upstairs, you know. Literary novels. I think the opportunity for working class stories, working class culture and working class actors is definitely diminished. And again, from society as well, where, you know, in terms of social security and benefits, that's shrunk. As I say, in my day, I could get a grant. When I was unemployed, I could get unemployment benefit, housing benefit, supported me through many, many periods of unemployment. I never had to take a job and another job in a bar. Once got turned down for a job in Pizza Express. So, yeah, social security kept me going.
And when did you feel that as an actor you had kind of made it? Was it Four Weddings that kind of changed things for you? I feel like maybe that's the one that a lot of people would probably start recognising you, I imagine.
I had different feelings at different times. I mean, one of the first things I did out of drama school was this 3-part drama for the new Channel 4, thing called Brond, with Stratford Johns, James Cosmo, directed by Michael Caton-Jones, fresh out of film school. 10-week shoot, was in nearly everything, kind of really cool political thriller. I thought, oh, this is going to be good for me, you know. And then not long after that, everything dried up because, you know, like Thatcher had put a lot of the TV licenses up for sale, up for bid. So those that had the license weren't making anything. Those that didn't have the license were bidding for it. Then when the licenses were awarded, there wasn't much being made then either because they had a couple of years before they got the license, so why make anything? And then that seemed to be the kind of era in the early 90s of the sort of Merchant Ivory. Great, I mean, if you like all that stuff, great, enjoy, you know, but I was never going to get a part in it. So, yeah, those were quiet times, did a lot of theatre. And then 4 weddings. So, and then you think, oh, this will change things up a bit, which it kind of did. And sliding doors, and I did a lovely little art house film in those days as well, Madagascar Skin, which I adored, and I learned so much about acting on that because you were connected to the director, and the director's connected to what he wants in the story, and you're getting that direct. You're not getting some executive's ideas put through the producer, told to the director who's having a quiet word with you about this, that, and the next thing. So that was great. And then the Mummy, that was like. Yeah, right. I'm waiting for Ken Loach to phone me. I don't want to be going doing some pish like this. Well, but that put me right.
Yeah, I mean those films I love, man. I think.
I know.
But I guess those types of role, like people like like for weddings, like they don't prepare you for what you're doing now in Bad Day at the Office, so we don't think of that as a kind of John Hannah role. How did that come about? This kind of.
I mean, I think everything you do. I mean, I've kind of actively tried to avoid being typecast, ironically, given that, I do a lot in my own body, my own voice and stuff. And I go back to a thing I had once heard Jack Nicholson say, that you were entitled to feel that you've got 80% in common with the characters you're playing. I'm not one of those actors that has a hump and a limp and an accent, I try and find the truth in the moment and the stories that connect with me and the characters for the audience, the writer. And everything you do is a learning process. So doing something like Bad Day felt like I'm quite good technically. I'm quite given my engineering background and stuff. I do have a decent kind of right brain, if that's the expression. I can sort of figure shit out.
Yeah.
And I'm committed artistically. While I don't necessarily think of myself as a natural actor, still got that kind of slight imposter syndrome that a lot of us do have. Yeah. Regardless of your background, I think we all still have that a wee bit. You just try your best. You listen to what it is the director wants and how he thinks it's best to achieve that. And if you give it a go, maybe you find out he was right and that you can do it, And I've learned that, like 40 years of doing this, I don't doubt myself in the way that I used to as a young man. I'm comfortable with where I'm at. I'm comfortable with what I've achieved, what I haven't achieved as well. I'm comfortable with where I'm at. I'm comfortable with the qualities that I have, and I'm aware of the flaws that I have. I just want to do my best.
But I guess you're also going outside your comfort zone, because this surely was a bit different from what usually, like technically, the film is all kind of shot from like the camera's point of view or the character's point of view, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it's like, as an actor, you and Radha like working together, that must have been tricky as an actor, or is it
very challenging? Yeah. No, very, very challenging. I mean, because it was a step beyond working with Radha, because often when the camera was looking at me, we had Radha's camera double operating.
Right, okay.
So our scenes were relayed via an earpiece. So I was working with Radha's camera double, who was filming me, and I was acting to her as if she was Radha, but Radha was by the monitor feeding her lines to me via an earpiece.
Okay.
And the camera movement and the sort of whole energy of the movement when you've got just those wide-angle fixed lenses, no cuts, no zooms, no close-ups, is quite different. We had a bit of a boot camp on that. Teddy, who was my camera double, who was doing that when required, he and I worked very closely both on how I wanted him to perceive things, but also he worked very closely with me on how best to utilise that movement. And it was more of an instinct thing, and Chi kind of managed to give me that. He liked what I was doing with the camera often. So, and that was an instinct thing as opposed to an intellectual thing, where you feel like something's happening with that character that you're interested in, so you just have to move to it. And the way that if you're just standing looking at somebody in wide shot, it can get boring from an audience. So you have to find things about the movement that creates an interest, and often that's something that gets sparked by something else.
And this film, I mean, I assume you weren't doing the parkour. I assume you weren't peeing on people and ramming fish down.
The fish thing I did. I did a lot of the fights, and I did a lot of those fights in the That fight in the kitchen, I did a lot of that. That was late at night. That was pretty horrendous because it was hard. There was like 37 seats, 37 moves in that fight. You had about an hour to learn it. It was getting late. I was tired. There was things that would go wrong. The fish was slippy for a start. Also, you stick it in somebody's mouth, and those fins, like on their dorsal fins and things, have still got bones in them that actually really hurt. It was tough. Yeah, the parkour I didn't do. I did do quite a lot. I just realised there was a sequence I did that we didn't see, which I was pretty proud of, actually. Yeah. Okay. I had to, when Rad and I are in the car, I was part of a fight sequence. I headbutted a guy, threw him through the passenger window of the car, pulled him out, kicked him into the back. Rada took off in the car, and I ran after it and jumped in when it was moving, which I wasn't meant to do, that last bit, run after it, but it just happened anyway. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask about that, because the film, it's like chaos. It's like, it's frenetic. There's lots of stuff happening. Was it chaos to shoot, or was it very choreographed? Is this
both? It was both chaos and choreographed. There was there was choreography to a certain extent, but the takes were very long, and so within the beats that we had to hit in order to move the story on, there was periods of slack that were often taken up with improv that might be good, might be used. A lot of it was, or might not, in which case it wouldn't be the benefits of editing, I mean, the stunt team, I have to say, the stunt team were phenomenal, and being so close to them, being almost like a part of them, because it's really interesting. I never realised, I don't know if it's like this in other films, like The Matrix or whatever, but so the guys that come into the film at the beginning are the cops who come in, and all in the stairway, and all the shoot-em-ups that go down in the halls and the elevators and all of that. They're all part of the stunt team that then, when we were in the kitchen, they're all then dressed as the kitchen staff. Yeah. And then when we go to the next sequence where we're in, the internet cafe or whatever, the fight that's happening there are the same guys who are dressed at the train, for instance. And there's a kind of meta double nod later when we're on the plane to the characters that we've seen previously very briefly, like in the nightclub, on the train, and the plane. There was the same characters deliberately playing different characters, but then there was the stuntmen who were playing different characters who were the same guys. It was, and the work that they did and the pain that they went through, I had so much respect for that. They literally did throw themselves about like you wouldn't believe.
I'm just wondering, because obviously you have done these kind of big Hollywood films, the Mummy movies are huge productions, and I imagine what is the difference? Or is it kind of similar? Are those big productions also chaos and
they
wild?
They are chaos, and also Brendan jumps around a lot. He throws me around a lot. We get to do kind of not dangerous stunts, but we get to do a lot of bits of stunts, things like the old kind of Western swap, I'm standing there, say in the third one, and there's a chariot running out the street, and I have to dive over the car to get away from it. So I'm standing there, and then at a certain point, I'll swap out for a stuntman. The stuntman goes flying over the other car, and then just pop up from the other side, like it's me that's going on. Really little simple things like that. A lot of rolling about, a lot of running around, a lot of physicality. I broke my wrist in the first one during some stuff that we were doing. Spent most of that film with my wrist in a cast, which was velcroed. So I would take it off. If you probably won't remember. In the first one, I had a stupid scarf wrapped around my wrist, and that was partly because in camera I couldn't wear the cast. So just as a way of holding it up a bit, I would just wrap this bandage around. So it was pretty physical. What was the question?
I was asking the difference between these kind of big productions and
so that's what I was going on to say. Bottom line is, from an actor's point of view, 6:45 on The Mummy, and it's like, we've got to get this scene, we've not got it yet, so I want you guys running out, you get these lines to say together, don't fuck up, because behind you there's 200 guys doing shit, and that building's going to fall, so if you don't remember what you're going to say, just say fucking something. And it's that thing of it's 6:45, it's like working for ITV, it's 6:45, we've still got this scene to shoot, and we've got to get it done. I
guess in those films though, Brendan Fraser is the hero. You're the sidekick, you know. You're like sometimes, or the damsel in distress sometimes. But here you're the hero, you know. Like, did you imagine that, you know, in your 60s you get this kind of like chance to be an action star?
No, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I felt a little bit. I heard Matt Damon in one of these interviews talking about his tattoos and stuff on his arms and saying that he thought his days of getting his biceps out were over. And similarly, when I got to 60, and I kind of felt like, you know, you're sort of having a bit of look at things, and I felt like, you know, I don't know that I took the time to enjoy a lot of some of the stuff that I got to do. I was often pursuing your career. You're in the middle of a job and you're thinking, right, what's this going to get me? What's going to be next? Or you're in the middle of a job and your agent sends you a script and you're kind of ahead, you're not in the moment. And I turned 60 and I was like, you know, I need to fucking just I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy with what I've achieved. There'll be other stuff that comes in. Some of it might be fun and that'll be good, and some of it might be a bit boring and I won't bother with that unless it's somewhere nice or it's really well paid. And I kind of just took a step back, wanted to enjoy it again. I've done a lot of little like cameos, you might call it, a little week on something here, a few days on something there, filming somewhere really cool, doing things that I never expected to be doing, and then like this comes up and you read it and you're like, this is the most insane thing I've ever read. It's a no-brainer, I need to do this.
So do you think you might be getting a late career kind of Liam Neeson style action renaissance? Is that
I'd certainly be up for that, but I'm not expecting it. You know, it's if you learn anything in this business, it's not, you know, it's don't hold your breath.
Well, I think that's all the time, but cheers for chatting to me, John.
No,
congratulations on a very kind of game performance in that film.
Thanks very much.
And go and get some sleep now, I think.
I think I do need a wee rest, yeah.
Okay.
Chill.
Take it easy. Well, that was John Hannah. What a top bloke. The whole gang will be back in 2 weeks' time for the regular review show. And in the meantime, I'd encourage you to go over to the Skinnies website to check out our reviews and features from this year's Edinburgh International Film Festival. Happy reading. Bye.